you've got to know about this guy. He's from America, and he's never had a seminar outside America, and he's coming to New Zealand, and you really should go, sort of like, baited fish. We were ready for catching.
Today, I am honoured to be joined by a remarkable woman, Raewyn Shand, someone who has spent years inside the ATI homeschooling program, which is part of Bill Gothard's world, raising her family within that high control system. She's a mum of 10, which is extraordinary in itself, but even more extraordinary is the journey that she's taken to reclaim her voice and her truth. And she is here to share what it meant to be an ATI mum and what it cost, and how she's finding freedom on the other side. Thank you so much, Raewyn, for joining us today. Really excited to have you here.
It's cool. Glad to be here.
Would you like to give us just a little introduction to you and your life?
My life. I'm sitting here looking out at sheep grazing beside the lake at the moment. It's actually a peaceful little moment in amongst a pretty chaotic, busy life, which apparently I'm supposed to be retired. But life doesn't stop. So we moved down to Otago about 6 years ago, and we've been building a home here and making a new life, from where I used to live up in the Marlborough Sounds. So my just, I guess, going back, when I was raising the children, we lived up in the Marlborough Sounds in a remote sheep farm area, and we had the 10 children, and we were farming and we were busy. And then my husband was killed, and I eventually left the farm. And then down the track further, I remarried, and now we're down here. So now we spend our days working, building, and traveling backwards and forwards to David's family in the States. So yeah,
busy life.
Yeah, it is.
So can you take us back to the beginning of the ATI homeschooling program, when you, and what drew you into it as a family?
It wasn't like a sudden thing for us, because we were in the traditional Anglican people, both of us, when we got married, but there was nothing there. It was just like, churchgoers once a month, because we'd go around and fellowship at the French Pass, and it was more meeting up with the people than anything else. There was nothing in it. And then we got a minister that came and started rocking the boat, and it was just a journey where we jumped out of mainstream traditional religion into a community that was formed up in Havelock, and so the journey went from jumping out of the boat into a non-mainstream community that led to home churching, and that led us into the Gentle Spirit movement, which you may remember.
Going back a bit.
Cheryl Lindsay and all that sort of stuff, and I was quite involved with that. And I just cringe at the articles I wrote for her magazine. Anyway, it's all a convoluted journey. So we were all, in that there, and I was teaching the children at home, first of all on correspondence, but then we jumped out of that because it wasn't suiting me and wasn't suiting one of the children specifically. And we started doing an ACE program, and that didn't suit us at all. And then a friend was like, you got to know about this guy. He's from America, and he's never had a seminar outside America, and he's coming to New Zealand, and you really should go. That was the introduction. And I'm just trying to think which one we went to. We went to one in Nelson, I believe. I'm a little bit foggy on the details, because it's like 35 years ago. And there was people there that, that I knew, really good friends of ours that were, like half of Camp David and all those sorts of people. They were all there. And so it was like a real familial thing that was going on for us. And my girls were getting older, and I'm not exactly sure, like, when the schooling thing came into it, we sort of it just sort of like part of the process. We just sort of went into it thinking that it would be a good thing, especially for one of our daughters who was having quite a difficult time with life. And we thought, oh, this could be the answer to all of our problems, as you do.
Well, he promised that too, didn't he?
It definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't. So, yeah, so that's how we got into it, really. I think we were sort of like, baited fish. We were ready for catching.
Yeah.
I had someone say to me in recent years, how on earth did you how did you get into a cult? I thought you were intelligent. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Yes. But they offer you so much. They offer you all this, all this, the shiny stuff. It's all there.
Yeah. And
Offer you so much.
If you feel like you've got a need, you have a need needs meeting, and they're offering answers to these solutions. It's
Yeah, and when you're having, like your young parents, and well, basically we took time to consider, and we had two. I remember two specific families that were friends of ours, and we met up with both of them. And one of the families was extremely rigid in their approach, like rigid to their timetable, rigid in every way. The other family was so laid back and cruisy and everything. And they were both using the program already. And I was thinking, well, if it works for both of them, well, we're sort of in the middle here somewhere. Surely it'll work for us. So that's basically why we decided to go in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what promises or ideals did ATI offer you as a mum?
Oh, grief. I've been trying to think this one through about the promises, but all I can just remember is that, we were in a situation trying to manage young teens, and, one in particular that was having issues, and it was just sort of like, well, this could be the answer to our, problems. I can't remember much more about the, the promises and things like that,
Yeah. I mean, was it the materials were quite back then? They were sort of quite attractive, and
yeah, they were attractive until you started using them.
yeah, which is what I want to ask you about that as well. Like, did you have any once you did start using them, the wisdom booklets? What else was in there? The character
The character sketches.
is
What was there? Mainly the wisdom books, isn't it? The character sketch books, and the wisdom booklets I can remember distinctly. Several things that happened when we were using those wisdom booklets. One was, but that verse doesn't mean that. How on earth do they make that verse go to there? You know what I mean? And I was like, because I am intelligent, I'm not stupid. I've done a lot of reading, and we were well versed. We weren't, and anyways, I just like would gloss over it. It's like that doesn't add up, and so I just gloss over it.
right.
But
So you're already starting to question it.
Yeah, but I remember one of the big things that happened was, and it was probably pretty early on. I can't remember the books, but there was a picture of George Washington, being upheld as this wonderful, godly Christian man. And I'm looking at this picture and I'm reading all about what they're saying about him. And I'm like, but this is not adding up, because he was a Freemason and you can't be a Freemason and a Christian. Okay. And that's when I was in touch, because the family coordinator at that time, I contacted her and I'm like, this doesn't add up for me. This doesn't make sense. And she said to me, well, actually, interestingly enough, our family's just met up with Uncle Barry Smith, who we used to fellowship with, and I've been through Barry's Bible school, so I'm on the same planet there. And he was explaining to them that the Americans don't see that. They don't see the Masonic and how Masonics don't align with Christianity. And yeah, anyway, so that was the conversation. Of course, nothing happens because it's already in the books, isn't it? And
yeah.
if you don't understand and you don't know, you don't question. So I imagine a lot of people didn't have that background, didn't have that understanding, so they weren't questioning that.
And it's funny too, like with Bible verses, when you see it in print like that and somebody's using it as a statement or as a way to prove a point, you don't often question it either, do you? Because it's the Bible. They've used a verse, whether that's in context or out of context. It's funny how.
Interestingly enough, today I do.
Yeah.
Today, if someone starts using Bible verses to quantify their argument, I'm like, I'm just like, yeah, right, back off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably got a lot to do with your experience and spiritual abuse that's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's so walk me through, like, what would a day look like for you using the ATI curriculum and as a mum?
Well, for me, life probably didn't change a lot, just changing the curriculum, because we were already home educating. So basically, for me, it was just a change of curriculum and a change of presentation. So we were on the farm. It's a very busy life because I was running the farm. Running the farm with my husband. He was out doing all the physical work. I did all of the around the house stuff. I did all of the, the cooking, the looking after children, the schooling. I did all of the book work, the gardening until the children got big enough to take the garden over, things like that. So our home educating time was in the morning. So we would be doing that around the table after breakfast. But because I'd already been doing, I'd come out of the state system, which was more regimented. I'd come through the ACE curriculum, which was very regimented, and I had come completely out of that, and I was doing more of an integrated thematic approach with the Weaver curriculum. And so it really wasn't a great deal of difference. It was still integrated. It was still all of the children working together. But it was very lacking. It was very lacking, as far as, maths and the basics of, reading and stuff like that. It was all pretty much centered on scriptural studies. So, yeah, you had to, if you were aware of what was lacking, then you needed to add a lot to it.
Right, yeah. Well, I think I remember my parents doing that too, bringing in other curriculums.
Yeah, it was sold as the entirety. Definitely was nowhere near the entirety. If you had children that went through the system, the ATI system, if they did their whole education just using entire ATI, they would come out the other end with nothing.
Yeah.
That's my perspective.
Yeah. So what about like the wisdom? Because what are the wisdom searches that you have to, we did as a family? You'd memorize Bible, you'd read as a family in the morning, you get together and you read a chapter of the Proverbs or the Psalms and memorize all of that. Like, did that part of it change your own family routines at all?
We did all that. Everyone had to be up at the table at 7 o'clock in the morning before Tim went off to work to do all that. It was really interesting though, because I guess I've always been a bit of a rebel at heart, and so when I see things that don't work for me, I'm going to kick the traces a wee bit here. And one of the things was the when you hit the accountability back to head office by the fathers and by the mothers. There was, from what I can remember, I think there was a certain amount of accountability for us, and there was accountability from the fathers. Well, there wasn't no accountability from my husband because he was too busy farming. He enjoyed the family get together around the table, and I think that was beneficial. It was a good time, but we did all that stuff anyway. But we could get into trouble because he wasn't sending in reports.
Right. So you're saying the father had to send reports in on?
I believe that we had to send in some sort. I can't really remember. It's a bit foggy.
No, that's ringing a bell in my memory as well.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that there was this accountability from the father. Yeah, and then they were supposed to be, but if it had anything to do with bookwork or anything like that, forget it. He wasn't going to be doing that. He was too busy working.
Yeah.
So, and I honestly can't remember what we had to do, but there was accountability, and we felt very, very short. But it was also very difficult. I felt that just from me, and I'm not sure what the other families felt as well, the family coordinator was very, very young, and she was telling us what to do.
Mm.
And I don't think that really measured up.
Yeah, I think that's something that has been raised many times. And like, I remember myself working when I was working for Bill, and I'd be having to give marriage counseling to people.
Yeah.
And I'm like 21 years old, never been married.
It didn't go down well. I mean, I really liked her and I got on well with her, but I don't think there was no ability to give sage advice or sage help. You know what I mean? Yeah. So my kids would be just doing the schoolwork in the morning they had to do, then they were gone. They were out on the farm, they were doing stuff, they didn't muck around, but yeah.
So was there, I mean, I know you were quite isolated out where you live, but did you ever feel the pressure to conform, into the ATI motherhood kind of?
Oh yeah. Yeah, too right. And it came from so many different angles. Like the main one for here in New Zealand was the seminars. And even making the children conform to the dress code at home, which was blimmin' ridiculous. But the seminars were awful because we would go to Christchurch, and it was in the middle of summer, and I do not cope with the heat at all. And I can just remember being down there at those seminars, and I think probably the second one I went to, I was like, I'm not going to cook this time. I'm not going to cook. And because I used to sew all the kids, all our clothing, and I'd made like sundresses, but with sleeveless, and they were long, but they were split up the side. Yeah, very simple.
Yeah.
But that was against the rules. And so you get these, and it's not just from, like it's from the other more godly parents, if you want to say it, or, that sort of thing. You got, I don't know how maybe they might not have been voiced very strongly, but you definitely got the impression and you knew that you were wearing the wrong clothing.
Right. It's amazing how those vibes can be.
Yeah, the nuances were there. Yeah. And I remember going to a seminar when I had a young baby and I was breastfeeding, and my second daughter was with us. So she would have been, I don't know, she would have been 15 or something, I guess. And we went to the evening, I think it was the evening session, because they had the mothers, remember the mother's room? You had to feed your babies, and you had to go to the mother's room with the babies, right? You weren't allowed to have them in the auditorium. And this particular night, there was no mothers in the mother's room. So my daughter took the baby to the mother's room and looked after her there.
Mm.
And we got back to where we were staying, and the people we were staying with were ATI parents, quite rigid.
Mm.
Um, and she's like, how did it go? And I said, oh, it was so lovely. It was so lovely to be able to just relax and to sit with Tim, during the session, because, my daughter had the baby in the mother's room. Whoa, I got my head blown off. How dare I let my daughter take the baby and be in the mother's room? That's the mother's room.
Wow.
Oh
No.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I got eaten up about that one.
What's so wrong with it?
I broke the rules. I broke the rules. And I had another friend down there, and they came in a year after us, and there was a lot of tears shared. And I remember the year that she joined, and we were there the year before, so I'd already had 1 year. And I used to see her in tears all the time. Like, this is not what it's all about.
Mm.
If you had a child that was that was a normal child but was breaking the boundaries, you got victimized for it
Mm.
as a parent.
Right.
Yeah. So I distinctly remember those things happening.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like an adult form of peer pressure, or
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
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 A reinforcement. Like, it's interesting. Like, I talked about this with Anka Richter before as well. There's you've got the cult leader and his staff, but you also have this next level of, and it's usually women who
Yes.
enforce these rules on everyone else. Like, they're the ones that are kind of like the gatekeepers for these rules. And it's incredibly powerful how that.
It's like they've enforced a pecking order amongst the
Yeah,
people.
yeah, very oppressive.
Instead of lifting people up, they're just knocking them down. And yeah, I remember that distinctly.
Mm, mm,
And coming off a farm with farm kids, and then making my kids wear skirts and things like that. It was just obscene. To this day, you know,
So how did you yourself respond to that? Like, I know you're a bit of a
I went along with it.
trailblazer and a rebel, but
Yeah, I went along with it
yeah, you did.
at the time.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, I know that my kids went to some of the I think 3 of my children might have gone up north. I think 2 of the girls went to something up in Auckland, when they were holding the young ladies things up in Auckland. Can't remember what that was now, but I remember them going up to that.
Excel.
Yeah, Excel, that's it. And I just remember my second daughter, she took off, went for a walk away out of the place in Auckland, and like nobody knew where she was or anything like that.
Mm,
So they sort of like had tight boundaries, but then on the other hand, they didn't. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I remember my son going to one up in where was the headquarters again? In
Well, they had it in Auckland original. Oh, do you mean in the US or
I know the one down in here in New Zealand, not the Auckland one when it came down near Palmerston.
Martin?
Martin, yes, that one. Um, and my son went to that one. They had a nickname for the place. They called it Alcatraz.
I didn't know about that.
They used to call it ATI, the Advanced Training for Idiots. That's my kids.
It's hilarious. I love it.
But yeah, so yeah, those are some of the things that I remember.
Mm,
The segregation of
mm,
mothers and babies, and yeah, definitely very archaic.
Mm. Yeah. And did you feel that your views on motherhood and womanhood and were influenced enough to change while you were in ATI?
Well, I think because as I said before, we came through the gentle spirit movement. I'd already gotten myself into that flow. But it's interesting. As I said to my youngest, he's he loves a wonderful philosophical debate about everything, life and everything. He's always putting life to rights and investigating all the different religions and philosophies of the world. And I love hearing his brain work, which would be completely stifled if we were in ATI. And I said to him the other day, we were talking about this, and I said, you realize that, despite everything we went through, if it wasn't for what we were involved in, you 4 kids wouldn't exist. So got to look at the positive sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting though, how I always think of it like almost like they were trying to churn out almost like robots, like we're all trying to be these perfect functioning performing robots that stifle any kind of individuality, any kind of creativity.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they all had to dress alike, be alike. Yeah.
And I know, because I know your family, that you've got very creative children who have very interesting lives.
Yeah.
And how do you feel like that impacted on them, individuals? And
it certainly drove a lot of them away. As I said to you before, what my second daughter was having a lot of personal issues, and I went to the director here in New Zealand. We went to the director in New Zealand asking for help. The only help, this was when she was 16, I think, the only help he could offer us was to send her to the States, to headquarters. And of course, we couldn't afford to do that. And so she opted to go out to school. She went and did her last year at school, at high school, and then she's been working, and she's an amazing person today. She's, very entrepreneurial. And I'm just so incredibly grateful that we were not able to, and we didn't want to send her over there, because at that time we didn't know the full extent of what was going on at headquarters. But I'm just very grateful that we were not able to send her, because it would have completely broken her. But she was able to go to school for the year and then head off out and and do her thing in the world. And she's been an amazing person. She still is an amazing person.
Yeah.
And all of them have followed their own paths. I haven't held them back. I've always encouraged them to go and do. Yeah. But like, my eldest daughter did a lot of traveling from the time she was 16, and she ended up in Canada with a family from ATI. Actually, 2 of my daughters ended up over there at the same time. And oh my goodness, the judgment from this family towards my other daughter was horrendous. Yeah, they basically were telling her that that she was a rebel, and that she was this and she was that and all this sort of stuff. And she's an amazing person, but they're so rigid in their views. And yeah, anyway.
And so damaging for a young person to even have that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I think, thankfully my younger ones didn't experience any of that. The older ones, or the ones that were put through the mill by us, unfortunately.
So were there like, what was the first kind of crack that you started to?
Well, I think from the beginning, like, you know, we went in, I think we might have actually done the schooling for about 4 years. I can't really, I was trying to remember the dates just before. And it seems that quite a lot of the 90s was taken up with this, but I can't remember the exact time frame from when we left. So the cracks were right from the very beginning, you know, when I spotted George Washington, when I saw the verses, when I, you know, my whole being put under so much pressure and judgment. Um, and then that whole thing with my daughter, you know, sending her to headquarters, wanting to send her to headquarters. That was probably what broke us completely. And that was probably when we drifted out of it. We sort of, and I can't remember whether there was like a we're gone, or whether we just like, okay, that's it, I'm not paying for another year, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think that was probably the way it went. Yeah. So yeah, I think it was sort of the late 90s when it was very interesting because the family that came in the year after us, they left just after us as well. And one day she said to me, "You've got to read this book. You've got to read this book." And I read it. It's called A Matter of Basic Principles.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, by Don Benoit. And I'll tell you what, when I read that book, like, you know how you have all these, you have these inner feelings, like, you know, that, you know, you just know these things, but you don't know how to put them into words. And when I read that book, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is exactly, he's saying exactly what we experience. This is exactly what happened. This is why we're not there anymore. So it was his book, but it was after we'd come out that actually solidified the decision.
It was such a crucial book. I know, like, and my parents read that as well, and I
Mhm.
resisted reading it because I was so loyal. For a few years, I resisted reading it, but it seems like in those original families and those kids that were raised in it, that book was really crucial, a really crucial part of.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because the guy that wrote it was very, very hesitant to write it because he didn't think it was a cult to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Read the beginning of the book. I remember him saying that he took a long time to write this book, even though people had been asking him to investigate, because he didn't believe, because he was a friend and he didn't believe it was a cult. But then when he did start investigating, it's like, yeah. So yeah, I think that was, even though we were already out, that was like the thing that yep, we've done the right thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was probably around about that time that I did the burning.
Tell me about that.
Oh, you know, burnt all the wisdom booklets and things. But you know, it was really, really hard to get rid of the beautiful big character sketch books, the beautiful artwork, and the big solid ones. I can't remember, yeah. They were the hardest to get rid of. But then I became aware. I was, doing a lot of reading and listening, and I'm not sure this, don't take me for gospel on this one, but what I read was that his brother was the one that did those books, that put those books out. And it was his brother that was apparently not behaving appropriately and wasn't dealt with, but was sent away to another headquarters to
That would
finish.
be Steve Gothard.
Right. And he was behaving inappropriately.
Yes.
And but he didn't get dealt with, he just got sent away. And that was the moment that I was like, I can't do this. I've got my own history and I can't deal with people that don't get dealt with like that. So that's when I got rid of that one. And I couldn't, in good faith, I couldn't just like pass it on or chuck it out of the op shop. I burnt them.
Yeah. There's a fourth one now that's just come out.
Really?
Yeah. Dr. Larry Guthrie has put it together, and it came out earlier last year, I think, sometime.
In the same vein. Wow.
Yeah.
Don't they ever give up?
Yeah.
Don't they ever give up? Good grief.
It might run out of animals.
Hilarious. Oh my God.
So did you, so when you finally just kind of eased yourself out of it, did you lose community? Did you lose friends?
No, I didn't. Not really. Not really, because we had a home educating community around us. And, like one of my best friends, she said to me, like they knew in their heart that they were never going to go in there, and they could see the cracks, and they were always there for us anyway. So I don't think we did lose friends. Probably regained more.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So it wasn't, for us, it wasn't, that wasn't difficult. In fact, the funny thing is, when we stopped doing New Zealand correspondence and moved into home education, that was when we probably lost more in a way, because governmental reach said no, you can't participate in any of those activities down where you are, even though they're all our neighbours and things like that. And we all get together. No, you're not part of Te Kura anymore, so you can't. So we probably lost more then.
Right.
Yeah. Weren't allowed to go to the school days anymore, even though there was only a few families, and all the other families wanted us there. But no, you're not funded by the government anymore, so you can't go.
You were probably like one of the original home educators for New Zealand then.
Yeah, we were quite early. Yeah. We weren't I remember reading about some of the original ones, and there's some pretty cool people out there, but we were in there quite early. Yeah. I was 19, the end of 1990 was when we finished on Te Kura, and we were with New Zealand Correspondence School. Hang on, my eldest has just turned 46, so from 42 years ago we started with New Zealand Correspondence School. Yeah. And then when she was 12, we started home educating away from the government system.
Right. Because I know, just from my own memory of you during those days, is that a lot of mums would look to you for advice for homeschooling and how to do it practically.
Yeah.
Quite a leader in the community, really.
Yeah, I did. And me and my friend, we did the homeschooling camps in Nelson, and
Okay.
yeah, we organised those. So it's really lovely now that my daughter-in-law and my grandchildren are going to those camps, and they're still keeping camps going, and in a much different vein, but it's really cool to see that community still flourishing.
Almost, isn't it?
It's quite different though, back when we were home educating, specifically in Nelson. I can't speak for other areas, but there was the Christians, and then there was the others. But now it seems to be more fluid, which I think is much more healthy.
Right.
Yeah. By the time we finished, we were doing our own thing and sort of connecting with both sides of the story.
Right.
I just don't like that division. I just think it's unnecessary.
So, what helped you heal or begin to feel free from ATI and all of that?
For me, it's been it's not just been, I can't put it into the I've healed from ATI box, because for me, I've had a really mixed journey of many, many things. And so I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. My husband was killed. I've come out of a cult, and just to name three major things. So for me, my last 15 years of life have been from when I had a breakdown, when everything got too much for me, and I've been in therapy. And so it's just this whole big tangled ball of string that my life has been, that's starting to unfold. So ATI for me is just part of that entanglement. And so I've basically been healing from everything, if that makes sense. That's why I call my blog Big Ball of String. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. When we came out of ATI, we were still home churching, and we were still listening to people like Michael Pearl and James Dobson, and there was another guy, and I just can't think of his name off the top of my head, but they were all very fundamental.
John MacArthur. Was it?
No, he had like a big Bible translating book. Can't think at the moment, but my husband used to love reading his book. And Chuck, we used to listen every morning to Chuck. Say again.
Charles Stanley.
Oh, no, Chuck. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He used to have a radio broadcast every morning on Radio Rema, and we used to listen to him. And yeah, I honestly don't know where I would be now if my husband hadn't been killed, because he was quite entrenched in the fundamental side of things.
Wow.
He enjoyed the solid family, the home churching and all that sort of stuff. But from the moment he was killed, I walked away. It took me a couple of years to even put a foot inside a church. And even today, I won't. I've got my own faith, my own beliefs. I've walked away from all that. I haven't walked away from my internal soul belief, but I'm still deciphering everything, because every time you turn around, it's like, well, is that true or is that not true? So I'm still unraveling everything. But I'm not like my youngest son, where I can go deep diving with such deep rabbit holes. I find that exhausting. I'm just content to live now, without putting too much, too much stress on my brain.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Overanalyzing everything and
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm still unraveling things.
And I think, spirituality, I think, is a bit like that, isn't it? It's learning to live in the moment and
Yeah.
take what comes to your life and
Yeah. And like the whole thing of unpacking all the stuff that we've been taught, and all the stuff that we've been taught that is evil and no good and all that sort of stuff, and actually looking at like, well, actually, is it? And that sort of thing.
Yeah. Did you find it scary asking those questions? Like,
some things I'm very tentative about. Some things I look at and I'm like, not sure about that. But other things I'm like, you know what? It's working for me. So it's, I'll give it a go. But there's some things I still like, how you're like, you're not sure about this one.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because you've been so brainwashed and indoctrinated into so much like religiosity. And that was the whole thing, that, religion, the word means to bind, and we were so bound up, and to separate religion from our spiritual side and our and just our living. Yeah. And when you see so much damage, you see all the damage that's been caused by religion. Yeah, that's what I find scary.
Yeah, it is. And it's like your default to go back to what you've been taught and what's been kind of what you've been brainwashed with. It's hard to get away from that default way of thinking.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, sometimes it takes more energy than what I've got.
Yeah.
I just, when I sort of feel I've got to this point in my life, and I just want to live and enjoy life. I see too many of my friends that they're not getting to this age and stage of life these days, and I just want to be able to enjoy the life that I've got now.
Yeah.
Without being too hung up on pedantics.
Yeah, which I think is such a wonderful place to be, especially when you consider where you've come from. And
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what really helped me. I don't really know exactly what's helped me to become freer, rather than the fact that I've been in therapy for, like, I don't know, a long time. I can take it right back to the Christchurch earthquake. So whatever year that was when I started.
2011.
Yeah. So it's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Synonymous, isn't it? How earthquakes can be so synonymous with so much of our lives.
Yeah, it changed my life as well. So,
Yeah.
what do you wish someone had, like, if somebody had said anything to you when you were back in ATI, what do you wish someone had said to you? What would have helped you?
I'm not sure what would have helped. I'm not sure if somebody had come to me and said, "Hey, do you realize this is actually a cult?" Whether I would have stopped and listened. I'm not sure whether we were actually on that hamster wheel already. I
Right.
don't know, but it would have been probably good, rather than, this very excited friend saying, "You got to do this, you got to do this,"
Yeah.
being young and impressionable. Um, yeah, but maybe I don't know. Going, cults are really good like that, aren't they? They're very good at pulling you in and closing your ears to warnings.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Well, I guess if I put it another way, then if you saw somebody being drawn into something like ATI, what would you like her to know?
I would try and get alongside them and give them some personal history of my own, of what it did to us,
Mm.
and try and open their eyes to what they're actually getting involved in.
Mm. Which kind of goes back to, that you were influenced by somebody's enthusiasm for the program as well. So yeah, it gets back to those personal stories, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's really interesting listening to, like, different people coming in and out of different cults and things like that. I was just listening to a friend the other day talking about coming in and out of Mormonism, and what took them out and what brought them back in, and then what made them left, and there's so many factors,
Yeah.
according to where you are in life. And sometimes they offer you safety, and they offer you a safe place, and maybe you're in a space where you need that. So I guess if you see somebody heading down that track, the best thing you can do is to maybe get alongside and offer them that safe place that they need while they work it out, if it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you want to tell us about?
No, I'm just very grateful that we left when we did. I'm grateful that we didn't participate any longer than what we did. I'm really sad that I burnt my children like I did. But it's funny because some of them don't have a problem and then others do. So each is different.
Impacted differently.
Yeah, each is impacted very differently, So as a parent, you do the best for your children. And at that time we thought it was the best for our children. So it's all you can do as a parent, to do the best with what you've got, the resources at hand at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I can't go back and relive those years, and can't undo them. And my kids are all adults now, and they have to walk their own journeys, and they have to unpack their own stuff. I can't do that for them. But yeah, I hope that they can do that.
Must be a huge thing for them, though, that even for you to acknowledge the damage that ATI has done in all of your lives. I think that's a huge thing for a parent to acknowledge, and I don't think every ATI kid that grew up in it has had that. In fact, I think it's probably very rare.
Yeah, it is. From all of the connections and things that I've had in the States and New Zealand and that, because I've got a lot of connections through the home education movement and the ATI movement, just the damage is nuts. It's just nuts. And I see so many of the children, but the parents, yeah, I've seen some of the parents, just brokenhearted about what's happened. But yeah, as I say, as a parent, you do what you can at the time, and that's all you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't go back and undo, but you can try and redeem. The biggest thing that I have learned in these since 2011 is communication. And I was never, I mean, I can communicate, I've got a problem with that, but I didn't know how to communicate with my children, and I didn't communicate properly with my older children. With my younger children, I have got a much better relationship with my communication skills, if you want to put it that way. I have spent a lot of time working on listening and speaking with them instead of at them and over them. So I try to listen, and I try to speak and have conversations with them.
Right, which is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Do they feel like they've got an ally, a supporter?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I want them to be able to come to me no matter what, no matter what's going on in their lives. I don't want them to come to me and think that they're going to shock me with anything that's happening, because then they'll never come to me. Yeah. That's basically, I guess, where I'm at.
Yeah, no, that's actually a beautiful place to end, I think. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you've done with us. We really appreciate it. And it's really helpful to get insight into a parent's perspective on the program as well. So it's not, we don't often hear from parents who use the curriculum. So it's really.
I'm sure there's a few more out there that would be willing to talk and give different perspectives.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for doing it.
That's right.
Being the first one to do it for me.
Yeah, pretty scary.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. See ya.